Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. We have a packed schedule today. We have the NBA slate, as always, a lot of college baseball from Jake today. We're going to hit some conference championship stuff, some March Madness situations to go through, and of course, all of your questions. So before we get into today, I'm going to bring in the boys here. And I will say, we do love ourselves a buy low situation, and we are looking like we are a really strong buy low team right now. Okay. This means today, it's going to be pretty awesome. Shout out Jake with the 2-leg money line parlay. To see.
Perfect day for me.
Perfect day for Jake. Perfect day for Steven. Okay.
An accomplishment. It wasn't my fault. Things that I thought, foul trouble hurt us a couple of these.
Yeah. We can't talk about this anymore.
But today's my mother's 80th birthday, so that's going to count for something.
Perfect. All right. We are trying something new all in the same room. So if you can't hear some of us, just let us know in the chat. We'll try to figure that out. Important announcement to make here. We will be starting to do a 5 p.m. show instead of a 1 p.m. show starting next Monday. I think it's a great idea for March Madness. We'll be able to do a lot of live betting stuff with you guys, a lot more stuff towards tip-off for the NBA when we have some injury reports in and all of that good stuff. Hoping to get a good live chat interaction with that. Again, the live betting stuff come March Madness could be really, really exciting. So we hope that you guys can all join us at 5 p.m. instead of 1 p.m. starting on Monday the 11th. So let's get into some baseball. Okay, let's start with some money we can make right now. And that will also be a big part of our live betting segment, right, Jake? Mm-hmm. All right, Steven, I'm going to send you in the chat. Yeah, especially when the MLB comes around. All right, few college baseball plays to get into today. Let's start with a parlay we have here. 2 money lines with Duke and Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, just Duke and Coastal Carolina have been 2 of the best teams in the country so far this year. Duke did lose a game at Akron, but they're really dominant at home, and so is Coastal Carolina. They play at the beach. It's really hard to beat Coastal at home. Just wanted to play two. I don't think there's a lot of model value on either of these games, but I just wanted to play Coastal, and I just wanted an excuse to play Coastal, and Duke was something to pair with it to get closer to the even money line.
Closer to even money line is a exaggeration of the word, but you know what? Respect. Let's go over to Campbell here to cover +1.5 run line.
Yeah, Campbell at home is just a lot better team. North Carolina's been playing really well, but North Carolina, their weakness has been on the road the last couple of seasons, as pretty much every team in college baseball. Their weakness is on the road. Campbell's really good at home. They usually have a couple pretty good midweek starters, and their midweek starter was pretty good last week. So I was a little scared of them to win, but I think there's some good value at just -130 on the run line.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we take that as a straight bet, and then we'll also take Louisiana Tech here. Their money line is a straight bet.
Yeah, well, this is actually up to -150, but I think that I'm surprised. I think it should be at -170. That's what the model has, -170, -175. A lot of Tech at home here. Xavier has been a pretty good team in the Big East. Louisiana Tech's been one of the better mid-major teams the last couple of years. So give me a lot of Tech here.
All right, let's move on to some totals here. We're going to look at Liberty Charleston, not liking a lot of action in this game.
Yeah, I really like Liberty midweek unders. Let me pull up the model and find what they've been the last couple of years. They've been a wagon. So Charleston's been a pretty low scoring team. A lot of their games, I think all 3 of their games past weekend against Nebraska went under. We have this game at 11.3 runs, so almost 2 runs of value. And let's see, Charleston's games that are in the database, the unders 3-0, Liberty's games are 2-0 on the under. So that's nice. Going back to last year, the under was pretty, or 2 years ago, the under was pretty heavy for Liberty midweek games, but I think there's still plenty of value here.
Are midweek unders in general a pretty good take?
So far this season they have been, but it's pretty much 50-50 going back to last season. But it depends on the team, but I think it's just going with Liberty and Charleston, 2 teams who have been historically good pitching teams, going with their unders for a lot safer than some of these other ones. Like Texas Tech's over-under set at 18 today, so it's pretty crazy.
Damn. All right, well, let's go to one game. We do like a lot of action here. Mercer, Georgia State to go over 13.5 runs.
Yeah, we have this game at 15.1 runs. 2 teams that, I see this game either being like 3-2 or 15-14. I wouldn't be surprised either way. I don't really see anything in between. both teams don't have a lot of pitching depth. Both teams are a lot better offensively than defensively. So give me the over at 13.5. I'm surprised it's not 14.5. I think it's probably a little close to 14.5.
All right, little act now moment here. I see some people starting to ask about some of these conference championships for college basketball that are starting today. Looking at the Ohio Valley Conference, I saw Josh asking about. Let's get right into that. We can pull up the model here. I'll bring Steven back in. A few games. I know Little Rock is a team that we actually do have some value on here.
Yeah, we do. And I saw some other data and analytics service had the same thing. The reason why Little Rock is a good value in our model is these nice people at hoopshd.com have a good site tracking all the tournaments, the formats, the seedings. And you can see in this a higher value, the 1 and 2 seeds get two rounds of bye. So Morehead State is a 3 seed, and for whatever, for many reasons, they are the betting even money favorite to win the tournament. And number 1 in our sims, but not nearly at 50% because of this extra game they got to play. Morehead just lost at Little Rock by 1 point. Morehead was so they're not really some juggernaut that's overwhelmingly better. So if Morehead advances past that second round, then probably all bets are off in terms of who we like as a favorite. But as of now, with Morehead still having a chance of potentially losing, then we like Little Rock.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense with Little Rock having an extra. Morehead having an extra game that their odds are plus 100 compared to Little Rock plus 225. I mean, we do like Morehead to win, but I definitely wouldn't play that at plus 100. I think plus 225 is a lot more appealing there.
Mm-hmm. A few other conferences we want to get to as well here. We'll scroll down to another valley here. Indiana State Sycamores. Those are our guys, right?
Yeah, they're our 25th best team in the country, period. And one of our sleepers. We are going back a month and a half on them. So, Jake knows all about them.
Indiana State has Robbie Avila, who is one of the most fun players, and they call him Larry Blurred because he wears rec specs. So that's probably my favorite nickname in all of college basketball now. I saw someone call him that.
I love finding the wild niche characters in March.
Larry Blurred. So we're going with Robbie Avila and Indiana State.
All right, so we're going Little Rock, Indiana State. Now we'll move to the Big South here. 2 teams we have value on here.
Well, yeah, so I don't know a ton about these teams. Maybe Jake does. High Point and Asheville are the 1 and 2 seeds. They both won by 5 on their home courts against each other. So, not that that's everything. And Asheville has a better 3-point differential. So that's why the gap is closer, 33% to 23%, than the odds would indicate, 54 to 22. Radford is undervalued in our model, or valued in our model at plus 3,000 because they have really good home splits, but only 12 of their games have been at home. So their overall numbers are pretty bad because their road splits are bad. So, in a neutral court in our model, we're kind of equally weighing the home and away splits and not just relying purely on the number of games that they played in each. So if Bradford had played a more even schedule, then they may have had better overall stats and have be more like a plus, 1,500 line.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is if you play UNC Asheville plus 350 and they play against High Point Championship, you would think that the odds wouldn't be at all at plus 350, so maybe you could hedge a little there. If you do like UNC Asheville and they make the championship game, just thinking ahead.
All right. So we have 3 conference winners that we like. I guess 4 if you're feeling frisky or if you want to hedge whatever Jake's situation was there. All right. That's what's happening this week. Let's get into Jerry Palm's bracket. He re-released that. Now we take his bracket and we see who we would have winning the championship. We fill out the complete brackets. Let's take a quick look at that and where things would stand if March Madness started today. Let's head over to the East. We'll start here. Tennessee. I totally screwed this up. Tennessee, a team that we love. Tennessee, we have advancing to the Final Four, not UConn from this region.
Yes, we have Tennessee beating Arizona in the Elite 8 to make the Final Four. It's interesting. FAU Texas is pretty much 50-50, maybe with Texas losing and not covering against Baylor yesterday, that maybe and especially we'll see what happens with Dylan DeSue. He got injured. So that could be something that changes going forward. Maybe FAU's right around 50-50 with them now. Kentucky, we actually really like Kentucky, even though I keep saying they're a Final Four team offensively and the first round exit defensively. I really like this Illinois team. They're getting hot at the right time. So Kentucky-Illinois might be one of the best games in the entire tournament, and it would be an early round game too. So we'll see. I think Illinois could even climb to a 3 seed. We like Texas Tech over the winner of St. John's, Colorado. But interesting, Ken Pom really likes St. John's metrics, even though they're not that good overall. Charleston's our favorite 14 seed, and so we talked about them a little last week that they have any team to win, have any 14 seed or higher. We like Charleston as our favorite team, and it's usually every year either 113 or 114 seed wins. So if you like that, Charleston is your team this year. But still, this is what Jerry Palm has predicted, so it could change come tournament time. Nevada, Virginia is pretty much 50-50. We have Nevada with a slight lean, and then we have Arizona, and we like Arizona quite a bit better than all these other teams. Then it comes down to Tennessee and Arizona, and we like Tennessee.
Yeah. Arizona, a team that we like more than we usually like, correct?
Yeah, we don't love West Coast teams. I mean, we like Gonzaga a lot the last couple of years. We do not like Gonzaga this year. It's just we don't love the Pac-12 as a whole, and good so long Pac-12 after this year. So it's going to be interesting how these teams adjust to their new conferences. But we don't love the Pac-12 because we still love all the metrics in the conference.
All right, let's move on here to the West, where Purdue currently would sit number 1. They would then face Creighton. Creighton, somebody that we really, really are high on, have a lot of model value on as well.
Yeah, we love Creighton. Out of all the percentages-wise for teams to win the tournament, we have Creighton as the highest percent value. We actually have 2 upsets in this bracket, South Florida over South Carolina. South Carolina, I look at Ken Palm, they're the second luckiest team in the country. I feel like they shouldn't be this dominant at 26-5, 25-4, something, 25-5. They just win games. So it scares me a little to have South Florida beating them, but maybe their luck runs out come tournament time. When 12 seeds usually win about one time, like 34% of the time, so once per year is a good guess. And then when it comes to 11 seeds I think are 17-11 in the last 7 tournaments. COVID kind of throws things off there, but so we have New Mexico winning the playing game and beating Wisconsin here, and we just love Creighton, and we do not. I think there's a little confusion with the Baylor and St. Mary's at the bottom of the bracket. We have
a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts. We have Baylor beating St. Mary's, but we like Colgate as our top 15 seed, which is something to look to. Even though we don't have them as value to win the conference tournament, we have them as our top 15 seed. But we have Baylor beating St. Mary's. Even though we like St. Mary's, they just lost one of their best players to a season-ending knee injury. But we like Creighton to beat Purdue, which is the big thing here.
Right. All right, let's see if I screwed anything up on this one. We'll head over to the Midwest here with Houston, that we love, of course, to get out of here. They're just an analytics darling. And then we like Marquette to be the one that they face off to get to the Final Four.
Yeah, we have Indiana State, the Sycamores with Larry Blurd going to the Sweet 16 here. And it's because we don't really love San Diego State. And like I said, we usually have 2 11 seeds winning per year. And we like Clemson a lot, actually. But
yeah, what happened? I thought we were Clemson guys.
I think last week we had Clemson in the Sweet 16. This week we have them. That just depends on the bracket. That's how it goes. It's all depends on what Jerry Baum has. But we have Indiana State beating San Diego State here and beating Clemson. This was about to ride with Larry Blurd here, but we really like Marquette. And it's interesting. We didn't like Boise a couple weeks ago. Now we really like them because we like the matchup against Nebraska for them. Because I think we like their shooting numbers a lot better than Nebraska. But Houston, Alabama is the big game in the Sweet 16 on the top of the bracket. We like Houston because of their defensive metrics. We like Alabama overall, but we just don't like their defensive metrics. That's why we love Houston, and we have Houston beating Marquette to go to the Final Four.
Bang. All right, one more quick region to get through before we hit today's NBA slate. Over to the South, UConn, again, a team we love, a team we have a ton of value on here as well. North Carolina, we actually have beating Kansas, correct?
Yeah, we have North Carolina beating Kansas, even though we don't like either of those teams overall. Yeah. So 2 teams that we really don't like are North Carolina and Kansas. We have them much lower than they're seeded. But if they play each other, we have North Carolina winning that game. Auburn BYU is a really close game. We have Auburn barely beating BYU, but BYU is a team that we really like. So they're a team to watch out for. And what's interesting is Auburn we had as a Final Four team, and when they were in Purdue's bracket last week, this week we have them just going to the Sweet 16 and getting bounced because they're playing UConn, who's our favorite team in the tournament.
All right. All right, that is definitely a good dose of some college basketball for the day. Things to keep out for as we get closer and closer to filling out an official bracket, keeping the information coming. All right, let's head over to comeback day in the NBA, all right? I'm feeling good about this. It literally couldn't get worse than what it was yesterday. No offense, Steven. I appreciate all of your work. I feel good about this. I like a lot of these plays today. We'll start with Orlando, headed to Charlotte. Not really any line movement going on here.
Yeah, both teams have, the model loves the over, but that doesn't reflect the recent trend of both teams have been playing slower paced games, a lot of unders with significantly fewer possessions per game than the season overall. So in this case, I'm going with Trey Mann over 1.5 turnovers. He's basically the starting point guard for Charlotte. A lot of injured guards, so he should play plenty of minutes. His 3-to-1 assist turnover ratio is too good for what he has been recently. Back in college, he was 1-to-1. He was more of a scorer. And then his last season in OKC, he had 1.8 assists to 1.5 turnovers. So, it's hard for any point guard to have that kind of high ratio. And only point guards who average 4 to 5 assists, only 3 out of 10 average fewer than 1.5 turnovers. And those are guys who don't shoot that much. Killian Hayes is not in the league, Chris Dunn, and Kyle Lowry. So I like that. I do think that man could have a good night. He could have 6 or 7 assists, but I still like the 2 turnover potential.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a heat check type of moment. And especially for playing that many minutes, it's kind of time to cool down a little bit. And Trey Mann is also on my S list, so this is also kind of still a way of fading.
Yeah, I started, in anger. I did look for more picks of projecting bad performances.
Yeah. This is like, the villain's choice here. All right, let's head over to probably the game of the night here with Boston headed to Cleveland. A lot of action to be had on this game. We're going over to some blocks and steals with Jared Allen.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell's out, so that's why the line's 6.5 to Boston 8.5. I like Jared Allen over 1.5 blocks and steals at a pretty good price. I'm surprised by this, and so it might be a little fishy because, again, the strong home splits, 2 average, 19-9 over. I was wondering if the line was down because, recently it's a little lower, but it's maybe they thought Porzingis would draw him out to the perimeter more. But in games versus Porzingis since he left Dallas, he's had at least 2 blocks in 3 of the last 4, so that doesn't seem to be a factor. He's the one thing off Boston, he's had either a ton, 2 5 steal and block games, and then 2 with 0.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one or the other.
Do we have any value on Porzingis? I see him being talked about in the chat pretty heavily.
Not in PRA. We have the pretty much identical line. Again, we said this before, Boston, we tend to under project for all the players when they're healthy.
Right.
What do we threes? What do we have?
Usually the juice.
It's usually
1.8. So his line's 1.5, probably minus 140.
Yeah, if not even more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
1.5 threes, minus 154 on this line.
So probably the best line you probably get is minus 140.
Yeah.
I see some questions in the chat. I'm just going to wait until we get to those specific games, but let's head over to New Orleans, headed to Toronto here. I really like this play here. A lot of public steam on New Orleans. Couple injuries going on here for Toronto.
Yeah, there's some. The injuries play a big factor in my pick here. So Kelly Olynyk, he tends to play better when he gets traded initially, and it's an interesting trend.
It's a crazy take.
Because we have this crazy high projection of 2.5 blocks and steals, which is way more than he's averaged. So he averaged 20.4 minutes in Utah and 0.9 blocks and steals. Since his going to Toronto, last 7 games or so, 20.7 minutes and 2.2 blocks and steals. So something's got into him. No Jakob or Scotty Barnes, so he's going to have to play as a primary defender in the paint because he's a 7-footer and they need him to. And he just signed a nice contract extension for him. So
2 years, $26 million, but maybe he wants us to rest though. That's the thing that scares me. Maybe he's too much part.
He just had 4 steals and blocks against Charlotte and 3 versus Golden State, so he's stealing himself.
Can we head over to the model for this game in general? So no injuries really for the Pelicans at all.
No. So that similar thing happens as we have to Boston. Sometimes we under project Although it looks like we have a little value on overs because we like New Orleans in this game overall.
Right. What about their team total?
Just over. If the team total is probably 118.5, if it's 190, we have it at 119.7.
What the things I would do for a Trey Murphy prop line?
It might be posted on an odds jam, just not on
They're
this,
not.
on this feed.
It's just nauseating. Okay, I don't think there were any questions about this game specifically. Let's move on here to Atlanta at New York. I know we don't have a play in it. I think someone was asking about Bogdanovich
Yeah.
and his.
When I was doing my research, because Brunson has
Which
a line,
Bogdanovich?
but he's still a game time decision, right? So that impacts almost everything. It impacts the main markets. It impacts player props. So that's why I'm staying away from this game until we know.
And make sure you bet on the right Bogdanovich in this game, because that might be a little confusing.
No,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Whoa.
It's the battle of Bogdanovich. That'd be cool if they
Completely
had a.
unrelated Bogdanovich. I'm sure they're not that distant.
They're from different countries.
Yeah,
I
So-
have got to make a parlay out of that.
Right?
somehow.
Like, I think you have to. There should be like a line of DraftKings offer, like a Bogdanovich parlay or something like that. Both players over 15 points, something like that.
Mhm.
Mistakes by their broadcasts.
All right. This is just confusing. But so yeah, as a value, nothing crazy there. Let's move on to some plays we do like. Detroit headed to Miami. Stephen boldly going for another Detroit Pistons player prop.
Yeah. Again, going with the bad performance plays. The model has Ivy at almost 3 turnovers. His average is much higher on the road, 2.6 on the road versus 2 at home. He's averaged 3 in his games versus Miami. And I'm a big believer in the South Beach flu in this case. So Detroit, cold, kind of miserable weather in Detroit for the winter. They just played in Orlando 2 nights ago, so they presumably traveled to Miami and had a night off. Point guards that as the line is down because he's had a lot of unders recently. He hasn't been committing a lot of turnovers, except for a game of Chicago. So that's a opportunity to capitalize it. So
Isn't that the game they won?
yeah, guards who average, I don't know why I put that, but averaging 2 to 2.5 turnovers. So right in the same range as Jaden Ivey. When those guards go to Miami, they average 2.8 turnovers versus just 1.9 in their home. So the South Beach Blue is a big deal, especially a young Midwestern.
Big time. Big time. All right, let's move away from this game. Head on in to the Spurs headed to Houston. Fred VanVleet here, someone I like a lot. I guess just fading the Spurs defense in general.
Yeah, I mean, the Spurs have been playing well, and Wemby's been awesome. So I don't like the main market value on Houston, even though the model is strong on that. And the smart money seems to be, lines moving to Houston, but pick I like was VanVleet. Because, San Antonio does allow 40% three-point shooting on the road. And I like the volume that VanVleet's been showing recently. He's 4 or 5 games with 20-plus points, 4 or 5 games with 15-plus field goal attempts. And then similar point guards. The 2 most similar are Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon in terms of points per game. And they're 6-1 over 16.5 versus Spurs. Going back to last year.
This might be one of my favorite plays of the night. And I think this is one of the best ways to show the new little tool that Jake had you build. All right, I see some questions about this Pacers game headed to Dallas. I think someone was asking about Halliburton here in the chat. Big Cheesy with his PRA.
Yeah, we do have a lot of value. We have 36.8. Looks like his line's around 33.5.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of surprising me that our value that line's as low as it is for him.
What about Luka over?
He hasn't been scoring recently.
What about Luka over 34.5 points?
Yeah, he's still listed on the injury report, but he had a massive 38-point triple-double injured the same destination last game. So we have him ridiculous. He's been putting up arguably better numbers than Embiid did, when he was on the stretch. So he's been unstoppable. I don't think the model that's considered projected.
All right, let's talk about what the model does like here in this game. Derek Lively, we have a lot of value on him to go over his PRA.
Yeah, it's interesting because you rarely see at this point in the year players line of 13.5 that much lower than his season average. His season average is 17.4. Yeah, it is lower at home, but So I think the reason why the average is lower is because this last month it's been significantly lower, but that's been skewed because he was on a minutes restriction when he came back from a fairly lengthy injury. So he was off that minutes restriction 3 games in a row here, and he had over the numbers in all the 3 games. The last game was a bust because he got in bad early foul trouble against Philadelphia. There's also some concern in the lines reflecting that when they traded for Daniel Gafford from Washington, Gafford had 2 double-doubles when Lively was hurt, I believe. But Gafford seems to be back to a backup role where Lively. So Gafford, even after his hot start with Dallas, 2 big double-doubles, his minutes recently 0 points reported after 13 minutes, 6 minutes. So except for this one game against Toronto, which I think they're up big, he hasn't been playing major minutes. So I like Lively to go back to the starting minutes and production that he had most of the season.
Nothing wrong with asking guys to hit their season averages. Yeah. I think that's really just
or
about
2
it.
below their season.
2 below their season average, yeah. All right, let's head into, I think I skipped a game.
Philly, Brooklyn.
Yeah, sorry, I skipped Philly, Brooklyn. How could I skip my guy Tyrese Maxey like that?
Yeah, he's kind of annoyed you.
No.
All right. Oh, that's Tobias.
Buddy Hield annoys me, and Tobias Harris annoys me because he's a
so
max
hopefully he
contract
just
player.
squeezed those 2 out because we like him for 28.5 points. So I categorize this as something wacky in my little graphic here because he's obviously, despite his increased production, he struggled against Brooklyn historically. Just as after his rookie year when he became kind of a real starter, his average is under 19, pretty bad field goal percentage for him. Just 1 game over 26.5, and it was 27 points. So he's never had a good game against Brooklyn. And considering their division rivals, they play him a lot. It's time for him to have 1 good game against Brooklyn, right? And so he's due. But I just like that recently his volume of field goal attempts is up. So 7 of last 9, he's attempted at least 21 field goal attempts. He had 19 in one of the unders and 15 in the other 2. And he shot well, at least when he shot 15.
Mm-hmm.
That was last game against Dallas.
Yeah. Okay. I could dabble with that.
And Mikal Bridges, I think Derek was going to point out, hurt his hand and not getting blocks.
Yeah.
But he did hurt his hand.
Putting in all the no work. I saw Nick talking about Buddy Hield over 3.5 assists. Doesn't look like we have much model value on that.
Yeah,
but is that his PRA line up to 19.5?
19.5, so we have 20.6. So we still have him shooting, scoring. He hasn't.
Whatever, buddy.
As you know, he has not been scoring well recently.
He is not.
But his field goal attempts are still solidly in the low double digits.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to someone we do think will have a good shooting night. The last game of the night with Phoenix headed to Denver. Mr. Bradley Beal at even money to make 2 threes.
Yeah, so better than that. I think it's been going up from 100 to 110 down to 105. So I would probably get it if you can get it at 105. Model has him projected 1.7 because Devin Booker is out. So, well, two things I love about this is he averages considerably more on the road so far in just 13 games, but still it's a lot more than 103 at home. Now there are 5 games he played as a Sun without Devin Booker, and these were his 3 for 6, 2 for 4, 3 for 5, 6 for 9, and of course this over 5 game.
But that's volume.
So there's no chance that Bradley Beal would do me dirty. I mean, I'm a Wizards fan, sort of, and I'm a big time John Wall, Bradley Beal back in the day.
Uh-huh.
So he owes me there. Guards who do average comparable number of makes as Bradley Beal, actually fewer than he does on average. They're 13-9 over 1.5 at Denver. I think versus an under on the home courts. I think it's because Denver's up big and these guys start shooting threes to try to make up the deficit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that even if it takes 10 attempts, that he can hit 2 instead of going over 5.
How about Kevin Durant? Someone in the chat was asking about him. I know he's another guy that plays pretty well without any Devin Booker on the court.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have any of the someone asked about points and assists. We didn't have value on points and assists. We might have some just on points. We like his over and his rebounds because it looks like you can get plus money on over 6.5 rebounds. maybe even over in assists. So rebounds and assists could be an interesting play, although it's
a little
if you can
pricey.
get it in the minus 130 range, then,
Yeah.
then there's probably better value. We have 1.5 difference in rebounds and assists.
Yeah. I see some questions in the chat about futures on on the MLB. Certainly will be coming. Jake has been working on the model and everything for that, so we can certainly have some good value plays. What do you think? Like,
Tampa Bay.
We
Yeah.
always love Tampa. Tampa win total is always a model favorite.
Yeah.
But, and then Dodgers also. We always love the Dodgers.
Yankees under.
yeah,
Yankees under. Tampa over win total. Dodgers we love to win the World Series all the time.
but we certainly, nonetheless, we will be getting a futures
Yes. Oh, yeah.
episode coming out for you guys certainly soon. Here is the recap screen that I'm looking at right now. Lots of NBA, big recovery night coming. Lots of college baseball tonight. I know we didn't get a ton of college basketball, but Jake was in the chat answering some questions. So as always, any other questions you have, please feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. With that said, a big half an hour show. We got a big slate, a lot to cover recently, boys. All right. Good luck with your bets tonight. We will see you guys tomorrow.